share a screen. So to just bring that to life a little bit for everyone. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. That's the challenge. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Can now.
So just to recap, the scenario that Ben is talking about within this is test cases 502, 3 and 4, if I remember correctly. And those test cases are very much talking about the nominate plan scenario. And what the purpose of those last final scenarios in the nominate plan is, what we want you to do is to look at the nominate plan feature. This is our dev environment, and we've just got an additional feature in here which has got a graph in it, which is we just get an early sight of that. You won't see that in the current environment. But what we're asking you to do is to exercise the feature where you have a more than one plans that are valid. So all we're saying is click make final on a plan that you haven't nominated. You may have nominated one already. You can see Anna has nominated this one on the 11th of June. And I just want to make final that one. And you should see, I don't know if it's showing, the promote this plan button comes up.
Yep.
And I click promote. And now it's a plan that's been promoted by me. So effectively, I'm now switched that from Anna's plan to my plan. And then if I want to switch it back to the original one that Anna had promoted, which I believe was this one on the 11th of June, I can then switch that one back. So it's exercising that functionality that allows you to switch between the nominated plans. That's all we're looking for you to verify that you're able to do that.
Real okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, doesn't take much to confuse me. That's all good. Thanks.
Yeah, I know we could have probably refined how we articulated that particular test script. And if there's anything we can do to make that clearer, then obviously let us know for future test scripts.
Oh, good. Cheers.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, general observations in terms of how people are getting on with the submission to or the undertaking of certification test scripts? I'll also take this opportunity to remind everyone that submission 2 closes on Friday, and we would ask you to do your best to get a valid submission in and a plan nominated for Friday. Good afternoon. That's Krishnan.
Yeah, hi there. Just wondering what time on Friday does it close?
I suppose technically midnight, because we're not bringing the platform down.
Okay. So we can still submit on Friday.
Yeah.
Until okay.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose to be fair, yeah, we'll probably, we're not bringing the shutters down on Friday at any point, and I suppose if we to be fair to everyone and given a chance, we've not set a time. Also, in terms of people being late submitters, it'll be probably midnight Friday. That effectively you'll be someone who's missed the deadline. That means you'll be reported as such as someone's missed the deadline as of midnight on Friday. I think that's only fair.
Yeah, and the other question was, so there's pass with warnings and failure, right? For the kind of three outcomes of when you submit. So is pass with warnings essentially where it comes from when there's discrepancy between how many kind of MPANs you have for a supplier versus what we've pulled from our internal tools, basically? largely? And is a pass with warning okay, or that's more so my question?
It might be another opportunity for me to showcase something to bring this point to light,
Sure.
because I think a picture does speak 1,000 words. So this is in our alpha environment. Once again, just everybody let me know that you can see the screen.
Can see now, yeah.
So we've got a number of invalid plans, and obviously, I think as people understand from the tool, if it's an invalid plan, it can't be promoted. Valid plans can be promoted. Yeah. Now, what we'll see is an example here is a plan that's passed with warnings. Now, passed with warnings means it's something that can be promoted and can be nominated as a plan. And if I look in here, this is another feature that's not available to you, but it really just articulates that we can see that the pass with warnings. This is a summary. This region has got one LDSO that's passed with warnings, and that's legitimate. And what that means when I look at the validation submission validation rules, if I look at this sheet here, it's available on the Kestrel submissions page. If we go into validation rule 12, for example, in the supply ramp up window, you see the pass with warnings here. And there's an explainer here. So the expected range, that it has to be within that range. And a pass with warnings has got an additional 1% tolerance. So if you look in here, there's an explainer on what pass with warnings are. I see validation rule 12 and 14 have the pass with warnings criteria explained to that has an additional tolerance. So for example, validation rule 14, the ISLP, which is your LDSO portfolio, rather than asking you to submit bang on your LDSO portfolio as articulated here in your LDSO counts, 40,000, when we sum that across ELC, if it's within 1% or 0.001% of the portfolio for that particular validation rule, we would allow it. So I think that's 0.001% is 4,000 either way in that one. So it's a little bit, we're not asking you to be bang on because we understand, that suppliers may have rounding errors when they're doing their calculations, or there may be some slight portfolio churn in your numbers, and we're just giving you an allowance for that.
Yeah, okay, cool. Makes sense.
So hopefully, yeah. So again, we're not trying to be 100% too prescriptive and to give you a little bit of flexibility.
Cool.
Are there any other questions? Rowan, is there any sort of anything in the FAQs or the mailbox that we could bring up?
I'll just have a look and see if there's anything I want to address. I think one thing that we did want to mention was that if you have got a pass with warnings on your upload, this can be nominated. I think we've covered that already though, but just a reminder of that.
Yeah, that's a useful one. I suppose obviously while we've got sort of around about quite a few participants on the call, we're obviously as part of dress rehearsal 1, we are completing this submission 2, and then there's the final part of the activity for dress rehearsal 1, where we're going to look at all those submitted plans and look to create a baseline schedule. And what will happen is the final part of that phase, we'll see a nominate plan, and then there'll be an additional element that will appear here once we've closed the submission 2 bit. We'll close that bit, will finish submission 2, and then internally we will level all those submissions to make sure there's no breach of LDSO or central services thresholds, and then we'll issue out a baseline plan. Now, what we're expecting, that there'll be no adjustments required by the MCC or leveling in this exercise, but what you will see is what a baseline plan will look like coming back to you at a weekly granularity. And it will look slightly different because there'll be an additional couple of columns that will say this is the effectively the baseline values that will be seen, that we'll be using to aggregate up to other industry participants at a weekly granularity. And then obviously that will foreshadow those of you that are giving a committed plan, that would be the ones that we would be, when we get the daily plan, there'll be a similar format for the daily committed schedule. And it's just showing that then there'll be an additional section that will be for the baseline plans. I was going to try and sort of give a view of what that looked like, but I wasn't able to get that view up today. Brian, did you manage to find any further questions in the mailbox?
Nothing in particular. I did want to just say that if anyone is struggling to meet the deadline, please let us know as soon as you can, so we can sort of take action on that on our side. So if you do have any risks that come up that mean that you think you might not be able to meet the deadline by the end of Friday, just let us know in advance.
Yeah, and if there's anything we can do to allow you to, we'll see how we can support you with any late submissions. Obviously, ideally, we want everybody to meet the deadline of midnight on Friday. Ben.
Hi, yeah, just on that, regarding dress rehearsal 1. So you said that the baseline schedule will be sent out to be reviewed, and that's part of dress rehearsal 1. But is it still the case that we can submit the responses so far to dress rehearsal 1 as part of submission 2?
So we would close submission 2 in terms of plans we would accept for the baseline as of midnight on Friday. So that would what we would be carrying forward into the first baseline.
Yeah.
So yes, people can be late runners, but they will be noted as late submitters, and it will be a different baseline. Yeah. So we could have effectively a secondary baseline that would sweep up those late runners.
Yeah, sorry, that I'm not sure that's you getting what I was what I meant there. So dress rehearsal. So you expect a response with the sheet on for the dress rehearsal 1 scripts that we're going through. But you mentioned and in the emails that I've seen, it's said that can be included as part of the submission 2. But
yeah.
You're also saying that there will be later date as part of dress rehearsal 1. There will be these baseline schedules that we'll need to be reviewing.
Oh yeah, it's a good point. So dress rehearsal 1 and submission 2 are 2 different things, but
Yep.
yes, they do overlap in that the submission 2 activities you could effectively have carried out those activities as part of your submission 2 activities. So there is that overlap. And dress rehearsal 1 deadline for returning those, I think, is I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. I think July 20th.
Yeah,
We need those responses by. So in terms of completing those test scripts. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Returning those self-certification test scripts to effectively end dress rehearsal 1 is July 20th, and there'll be a couple of additional scripts for effectively just downloading your baseline plan. And that will literally be the final part of dress rehearsal 1.
Right.
So
Okay. But as it stands, I can on Friday or whatever, I can complete submission 2 and also send you back those scripts, and then at a later date we'll also receive some additional checks for the baseline plan.
Correct. Yes.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks for confirming.
That's a good point, Ben. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
And I think we can add that to the FAQs and also clarifications and some comms. I note that we're 20 minutes in, and I noticed there was a couple of late joiners. So I don't think we've got any further questions, and I will seek to close the call there. Yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and thank you. And I'll look forward to receiving submissions for everyone on Friday. And as I say, obviously, the deadline for dress rehearsal, the scripts that you have currently for dress rehearsal 1 will be the 20th of July, and there'll be just a couple of additional scripts for the baseline schedule once we've got that baseline schedule come out and that feature released. So thank you, everyone, for submission 2 and the remainder of dress rehearsal 1. And we'll keep in contact with you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.